Hi friends, it's Jayma here, and today I have a double page layout for you documenting some photos of a hike in Hawaii. But these are very different photos from the last hike I documented in Hawaii, and I'm going to be using very different papers as well. In fact, the papers I'm going to put together, you may not even expect to put together at all. So let's go ahead and see how this turns out. I already spent some time figuring out how I want my photos configured. So for each side, I mounted the photos onto one larger mat. So this photo right here was so funny. I'll tell you about these photos in a little bit. So the last hike that I documented was on the cliffs overlooking the beach. And this one was in the mountains of Kauai. And it was just surrounded by green, lush landscape and flowers, and it was so beautiful. So this paper here, hopefully you can pick up the shine. That's from the Thoughtful Designs paper pack. And later in the video, I'm going to show you the other colors that come in that specialty pack. And then these two patterns are from the Unbounded Beauty. And I thought those might match well. And then I had these two green striped scraps from the Flowering Zinnias paper pack. That's all I had left. So I'm going to make that work and flank them along the sides. I love that look with a strip on each side of the layout, and it's kind of a go-to for me. I've talked about that before, but now I want to figure out which other pattern I want to use and how I want to configure them. I did know that I wanted the green on the sides and not completely touching the photos because there's so much green in the photos. I didn't want green next to green. So I'm going to have a buffer around my photos of a coral or kind of orangey color. So I decided to go with this Thoughtful Designs paper. I think it complements my photos the best. The Calypso coral color matches my shirt really well, and the flower that's on the right side of the page, and I think it brings those out just enough and helps the photos to really shine. So for the left page, I'm pretty much decided there's just going to be a strip going down the sides of my photos. But over here on the right, I'm trying to decide if I want some white on the top and bottom. I'm kind of thinking I'll have an even margin of white along the top and bottom of the page. And I think I do like the white buffer. So I'm cutting a strip here, and then I will end up cutting that in half, and that will go on the left side. And then over here on the right, I'm going to cut off the excess of this paper that is going to be hidden under the green paper so that isn't wasted. And then the photos are going to be covering a lot of this paper too. So I think I'll have this butted up against one side and then overlap it so it's like the paper's coming from around the photos. And I'm liking that, and I'll gut out what's hidden behind those photos as well. And then I just need two about 1-inch strips over here on this side. They'll just tuck under the photos. And I was considering having a white buffer over on this side as well, but when I kind of tried some options, I wasn't liking it. And I think that the white border on the sides of the photos is good enough. Okay, now for the fun part, the embellishing. So I've got a different background here because I did that first part at a retreat a while ago, and then I finished it at home. Now, these are the Secret Garden dies. I've used these many times before, and they are amazing layering dies. And they are still available in the Secret Garden scrapbooking kit, which is 50% off right now. It was $108, now it's $54, and it includes this die set, another Stampin' die set, the Secret Garden paper, which is amazing, the scrapbooking guide, and some other things too. I will link that down in the description below. Just click that see more under this video, along with everything else that I'm using here. So I started building my cluster and then realized I need a grounding spot. So I turned to my Spotlight on Nature dies, which are my very favorite circle dies. All of the circles have that fun detail around the edge. And then I pre-cut a bunch of the flowers from that Secret Garden set in mostly Calypso coral, and then a little bit of a very old, close to my heart color, Gypsy, because it matched those purple flowers over on the right really nicely. Anytime I'm embellishing, I like to have the same colors represented in each cluster. So I've got my visual triangle of the 3 cluster spots on the page, and then I have a coral piece, a purple piece, and then these little sprigs that I used, the Calypso coral and a pink color, because some of the flowers over on the right hand page had the orange and pink, and so I was trying to match them, and I think that was kind of fun. I decided that these little grounding spots needed to be bulked up just a little bit. So I pulled out my Country Woods paper pack, which has just a whole bunch of wood grain patterns. And I chose this pattern here because it matched the bridge and the sign that are in my photos. And then there's also some dirt showing in the photos that is also brown. And I thought it was a nice complement and really gave these spots some more presence on the page. And now I'm going to add all of the different purple flowers into each of my clusters, and I'm realizing I don't like that. I don't want to have the purple represented, even though it matched that flower perfectly. I felt like it started taking away from the photos when I added another color. These coral flowers match the paper and go with the photos. They complement the photos, but the purple was a little bit more dominant, and I felt like your eye was drawn to the purple in the clusters rather than the photos. So I decided to just keep it simple and keep it to kind of the oranges and pinks in my clusters. And now I'm going to work on my title. This is a puffy sticker sheet, a thickers sheet that is from Vicki Boutin that I picked up at scrapbook.com a little bit ago. I'll link that down below in case you're interested. And I thought that this title, The Scenic Route, would work perfectly for this because our hike was extremely scenic. So that is going to work. And then I thought, you know what? I want to bulk up these clusters just a little bit more. If you know me, you know I love to have extra sprigs in my clusters. And while I do have quite a few sprigs already, I just wanted to bulk them up a little bit. And this Notes from the Heart paper pumpkin pack had these ferns that were really nice and big and had 3 of them. So I thought, you know what? I could kind of tuck those in each cluster, and that would look really good because there are some ferns in the photos, and there were a lot of ferns on the hike. So it complements the story really nicely. This was the December 2024 paper pumpkin pack, and I liked it so much that I picked up one of the refill packs as well. Now, you do have to be a paper pumpkin subscriber to order the refills, but I highly suggest getting the paper pumpkin. It's such a great way to get a lot of cards done, and then I often turn them into layouts or use elements for layouts as well. The kit also had these vellum sprigs, and so I want to tuck those around as well just to kind of bulk up and add a little bit more wispiness to my clusters as well. I just really love that look. And I love that vellum really, adds to the clusters, but it also has that translucence, so it's not super dominant. It's not going to be as in your face and distracting as if they were white leaves. And it also helps to still show that green patterned paper through as well. So I'm going to stick a little bit of those in each cluster as well. So on this particular hike, it was just my husband and me, my sister and her daughter, my niece, and it was super, super hot, but super amazing. There weren't too many people on this hike. I think it was kind of a hidden gem. There were a lot of locals that were swimming in the stream that we passed when we got to the trailhead, and then there weren't very many people on the trail, so it was awesome. Of course, it had just rained, so it was a little muddy, so maybe that's why. But I think kind of the wet ground and having just rained, of course, that's common there, but it just added to the beauty of the, kind of the wet leaves and flowers and everything on our walk. And it was just absolutely incredible. Okay, I want to explain what I'm doing here. So these dies have little slits in them to help give them their kind of shape and character. And so I'm doing a little ink blending to not only add some dimension, but it also helps bring out those slits a little bit more. So I'm doing that and then forming them, kind of rolling them on my thumb to give them some shape. Now, yes, they will flatten out in your scrapbook, but it makes me feel better that they have some shape now. And I'm hoping that maybe some of the shape will, be saved in the scrapbook as well. But it makes me happy. And that's what this is about right now, right? Okay, so back to the photos. So do you see that photo right above where I'm working, where my back is to you in my bright orange shirt? So my sister was walking behind us and she yelled up to my husband and I, "Pose." And without hesitation, we both pause and go into this like disco move pose, which is so funny because like we never do that, but we both did the exact same move without knowing what we were gonna do, and it was so funny. My sister was cracking up and she's like, "You guys did the same pose." So that was pretty funny, and it was pretty much representative of this whole hike. We were just goofing off and having fun, and it was so fun to be with my sister. She lives in San Diego and I live in Colorado, so we live many states apart, but when we're together, it's like we've never been apart. And I don't even see her that often, maybe once a year. But we are total best friends and just have so much fun when we're together. And our husbands both get along really well as well. So we had a lot of fun on this trip. It was my sister and her family. She's got 2 kids that are older than mine, and my kids look up to hers so much. And their kids are so good with mine, even though there's so many years between them. And then, of course, my family, my husband and our 2 kids, and then my parents, who actually treated us to this trip for my dad's 75th birthday. All right, so I decided that I wanted to add a little bit of inking behind my title too, because it was just so white and so plain, and I like how that looks. I tested it on the back first. I didn't want to peel off the bottom of the title because they were all individual letters, so I just kind of went over it, and then I was wiping it off of the kind of puffy sticker so that it wouldn't smudge anywhere, and I think that looks really good. But the way that this title is situated, it had kind of that blank space to the right. So I decided to add a few more leaves to kind of impede into that area so it wasn't just blank. So I'm going to kind of tuck in some underneath the photos here, a couple of the green leaves and then some of the vellum. And I wasn't loving how that looked. And then I realized, oh, well, why don't I just have some more poke out from behind the circle, just like I have the other leaves poking out from behind the circle, and then they can just come down and still kind of fill that blank spot. And I think that worked pretty nicely. All right, I wanted to show you the rest of that Thoughtful Designs paper pack. So here it is. There's several colorways, and they're all just gorgeous and have that kind of silvery iridescent shine. It's so special that I had trouble using it. And then, of course, the flowering Zinnias paper is no longer available, but this one here is from Serene Love, and that would work just as well in its place, or really any green tone-on-tone that you may have in your stash. Of course, your photos might be totally different than mine, and you might use totally different paper, but just giving you options if you wanted to, do exactly what I'm doing here. So for my little embellishments, I just had to use these tiny bee trinkets since I've got the flowers, and we did see quite a few bees on our hike as well, so I thought it was fun to sprinkle them around my little flower clusters. Now these do not have adhesive on their back, they're just like little loose metal embellishments. I found that I liked having the bees, some of them kind of tucked next to the clusters, some of them on top of the leaves, and even on top of the flower here, because that's where they actually go, and I think that they look super cute. I found that the easiest way to adhere them was with a micro glue dot. I'm sure that a liquid adhesive would work as well also, but since they're kind of heavy, I wanted to use a glue dot so I wouldn't have to wait for them to dry and risk them kind of slipping around when I lifted up the layout. Speaking of lifting up the layout, let me pull it in closer so you can look at all of that detail. Of course, I will have still shots eventually over on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, and I do have those links down in the description below, as well as all of the supplies that I used. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and be sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already for scrapbooking inspiration every week. If you want to see another layout using these same die cut flowers, then check out the one on the screen here, and I'll see you over there. Bye!